are purposely trained to eliminate people that are and so this.
After 8 years of this Prime Minister's inflationary policies driving up home prices and now interest rates, the cost of a monthly mortgage on average has gone up from about $1,500 to over $3,000. No wonder 9 in 10 young people who don't own a home believe they never will. Home price inflation is a homegrown problem. Instead of blaming the rest of the world for the problems he's caused, will the Prime Minister take responsibility for pricing our working class youth out of a home?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister for Housing.
We're very aware of the importance of keeping Canadian home ownership alive. That's why we introduced measures such as investing in a scale-up rent-to-own program in Canada, the creation of a tax-free savings account of up to $40,000 for first-time home buyers, and a 2-year ban on foreign ownership of Canadian residential real estate to give more opportunities to young people. But what do all these measures share in common? The Leader of the official opposition voted against them.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We voted against every single one of the inflationary programs that have doubled the cost of housing in this country for our young people. After 8 years, all they can do is brag about the hundreds of billions of dollars of other people's money they spent. What is the result? Home prices doubled to make Canada the 5th most inflated housing market in the world, with Toronto having the worst city as housing markets go. The average mortgage payment has doubled from $1,500 to $3,300, and rent in Toronto, our biggest city, is up nearly 100%. Will they finally take responsibility for pricing our young people out of a home?
The Honourable Minister for Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, it's not a hedge against inflation that the Conservatives voted against supporting Canadians. It's their ideology that drives them. Take a look at the facts, Mr. Speaker. Canada's inflation is lower than the US, Germany, the UK, the averages of the G7, the OECD, and the EU. Mr. Speaker, they voted against Canadians. Mothers who took CERB did not create inflation. Businesses that kept their businesses afloat during the pandemic did not create inflation. And parents that are taking their kids to the dentist for the first time didn't create inflation. They're peddling nonsense economics. We're delivering for Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
No, none of those Canadians created inflation. This Prime Minister created it. Doubled our national debt, adding $500 billion of inflationary debt, adding more debt than all other prime ministers combined. What did that do? That inflated the price of everything, especially real estate. Delivered the single worst housing bubble anywhere in the world right in Toronto. Toronto is more overpriced than Singapore, than Manhattan, than London, England. Now, the cost of a mortgage has doubled across the country, and the cost of rent has doubled in our biggest markets as well. This is a homegrown problem. Will they finally take responsibility for causing it?
The Honourable Minister for Housing.
Mr. Speaker, will the Leader of the official opposition take responsibility for voting against the Housing Accelerator Fund, a program to build more supply and make sure that we speed up processes to make sure we build more homes for Canadians? Will the Leader of the opposition take responsibility for voting against the first-time tax-free savings account of up to $40,000 to enable first-time home buyers to buy a home? Will the Leader of the official opposition take responsibility for voting against the foreign ban on Canadian residential real estate? Whether it is on supply, whether it is on supports for rental, supports for Canadians, he votes against all of that, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After 8 years of growing poverty and desperation, more and more Canadians are suffering with depression. Some of them are going to food banks asking for help ending their lives, not because they're sick, but because life has become so miserable and they want to end their lives altogether. This government has suggested veterans should end their lives instead of getting help that they need. And now they've announced that a year from today, they will introduce measures to end the lives of people who are depressed. Will they recognize that we need to treat depression and give people hope for a better life rather than ending their life?
the Honourable Minister for Mental Health.
Mr. Speaker, I think it is totally irresponsible for the Leader of the Opposition to misrepresent what this means. All of the assessors and providers for MAID are purposely trained to eliminate people that are and so this is for
Order. The Honourable Minister, please proceed. You have 10 seconds left.
on this side, and with the support of the expert panel and so many Canadians, will continue to develop and provide the kind of mental health supports that are necessary for people who are depressed. But the people...
The Honourable Member for La Prairie.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the leader of the Bloc Québécois met with the federal representative to combat Islamophobia, Amira El-Gawabi. Ms. El-Gawabi, who has the full support of the Prime Minister, has made headlines since her appointment for numerous statements against Quebecers. Even the Quebec Liberal lieutenant was insulted. The National Assembly has asked for her resignation. She cannot stay. Will the Prime Minister finally rectify the situation and ask for her resignation?